Hi guys! Today we're going to practice our spice charts, looking at the second wave civilizations in Greece and Persia. You'll find a lot more information in Chapter 4 of your textbook, Eurasian Empires 500 BCE to 500 CE. The classic empires that are mentioned in Chapter 4 are the Achaemenid Empire of the Persians, Alexander the Great's Hellenistic Empire, the Roman Republic and Roman Empire, the Chinese empires under the Qin and Han dynasty, and India's empires of the Maurya and Gupta dynasties. It's important that historians know what perspective they're using or coming across when they look at events. It helps us stay organized, and it also helps us fully comprehend something as large as a second wave civilization or a classic era empire. As you know, AP World History uses 5 themes: society, politics, environment, culture, and economics, which is why a lot of us AP World History teachers use a tool called the spice chart. Create this chart in your notes and define what each theme means to you. It's okay if you fill out the spice chart with what you already know, but each box needs to have multiple bullet points in it. It would be best if you could fill out the entire box to the best of your ability, but if you can only get 2 or 3 bullet points, then you're good to go. Take a minute to fill out your spice chart. Let's do a quick run-through of the classic empires, starting with Persia. I suggest that you listen first, then write down the spice chart on your notes. We're going to look at how my spice chart looks at the end of this slide. In 500 BCE, Persia was the largest empire in the world that had a governmental system that drew on Mesopotamian prototypes, mainly that there was one all-powerful emperor. But it differed from Mesopotamia's systems because the emperor required bureaucrats to help run it. Bureaucrats are unelected government officials who help to run the empire. Because of its size, Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Persian Empire, understood that he would not be able to effectively run the whole empire without causing mistakes. Some of these bureaucrats were called satraps and acted like governors by collecting taxes and maintaining the peace of their areas called satrapies. Regardless, though, they were always at the beck and call of the emperor. This organized government was centralized, meaning that it was organized around the emperor's power. It's different from previous empires, though, such as the Assyrian and the Akkadian empires, because the Persians practiced tolerance of other people. They did not force their conquered people into the Persian religion, language, culture, or customs, and they even encouraged their conquered people to enter into positions within the Persian government. They ended the imprisonment and enslavement of the Jews from the old Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar. And in doing so, this allowed a very diverse society with a variety of different cultures and traditions. Geographically speaking, the Persian Empire stretched from the eastern shore of the Mediterranean Sea all the way to the Himalayas and the Indus River. It had access to key trading points between the developing Greek world and India. King Cyrus even created a paved road called the Royal Road that greatly facilitated trade and communication in the Persian Empire. Persia had a unique religion for the time. It was called Zoroastrianism. It was the first monotheistic religion with a god that represented light and goodness, a final battle between good and evil, and a concept of hell and judgment. Many religions that came after Zoroastrianism share these main tenets, especially the Judeo-Christian and Islam traditions. This tolerance of other religions and diversity was good for trade, especially with the construction of the Royal Road. The Persian Empire was at the western end of the Silk Road, and having a strong, centralized, and safe empire led to the desire to do trade. This brought a lot of wealth into the empire. Did you get everything? Check your answers with mine. Notice that I did not write in complete sentences but wrote complete thoughts, and I also abbreviated longer words and used shorthand. You'll want to do this with your notes moving forward so that you can write faster and spend more time listening and making connections instead of writing things down. As well, don't forget to write down important people, places, and events in the chart, as well as comparisons between the civilizations that we might have already learned, the ones in the chapter, and, if you can, with countries that you know of today. Pause the YouTube video to check to make sure that your spice chart looks similar to my spice chart. Alright, let's do one more, and then you'll be in charge of filling in the rest of your notes for our quiz on Friday. Greece's isolating geography seriously influenced the development of Greek politics, society, and culture. Mountains and hills, islands, and waterways created natural boundaries. Additionally, most of Greece had direct access to the Mediterranean Sea, allowing the Greeks to be exposed to different cultures that had settled down around the coast of the Mediterranean. One of these cultures was the Phoenician color, the civilization famous for the purple dye, maritime trading empire, and most important to our civilization today, a written language. The Greeks adopted their alphabet and voila, their written language was born. Also included in Greek culture was the famous Greek pantheon of gods. These gods are different from the ever-present and all-knowing God in Zoroastrianism and the Abrahamic religions. Greek gods were flawed and were often used to exemplify what not to do and what is wrong versus right. For this reason, the Greeks weren't necessarily religious in the sense that we understand it. Greek philosophy, known as rationalism, was often equally as important as paying homage to the gods. Rationalism emphasized observation and conclusions drawn from experimentation. Many inventions and mathematical conclusions were drawn from this method, such as Archimedes discovering that the earth was round, or Pythagoras' theorem. The isolated geography did more than just influence their culture, though. There was never one single Greek state until the short-lived Athenian Empire and later Alexander the Great's empire. Greece had a unique political system in which they created independent governments and states with their own leaders, even though they all shared the same language and culture. These city-states were highly competitive politically, the prime case being Athens and Sparta. The Athenians took pride in their democratic government, a government in which people had rights and could participate in government through voting and rallies, whereas Sparta was proud of military might. They had an oligarchy, a government that had a council of more than 2 kings to make decisions quickly so that they may be carried out by their government and their army. Athens and Sparta also exemplify the diversity in society during the classical era. Both were patriarchies. Only men with property could vote and be considered a citizen in Athens, and only men could become soldiers in Sparta. Athens treated women as subhuman and the property of men. They were treated poorly and kept mostly to the home. Sparta had a very different outlook on women. They were in charge of bringing new soldiers into the world, and were the majority of the population, left in Sparta itself, as the bulk of the army was used for conquest. Spartan girls had very similar education as boys, as they were expected to keep the civilization running while men were at war. They were also expected to continue producing baby boys, so women would often take many lovers to continue the chance of being pregnant with boys. Both city-states required slaves. Athens required slaves for construction of their amazing architecture, while Sparta for running the everyday tasks while their male population was at war. Both societies also had a very wealthy, rich upper class. For Athens, this was an educated class that took pride and power from the arts and politics, whereas in Sparta, this class did not flaunt their wealth with commodities and things, but with military power and strength. Finally, Greece's mountainous geography and poor island soil did not create an ideal environment for farming. Most of Greece, therefore, relied on trade to get their necessary commodities. They traded lumber, olive oil, marble, and wine for things like grain. The Greeks essentially took over the Phoenician trade routes along the Mediterranean and created colonies from the existing city-states across the Mediterranean. As long as the Greeks controlled the Mediterranean, they were economically fit to trade with other civilizations like the Persians. Did you make a Venn diagram or T-chart of Athens and Sparta? Did you organize some things differently in the themes? We will have a lot of practice with spice charts, so don't be worried if yours don't look like mine just yet. Soon enough, you'll know the difference between society and culture, economics and politics. Now, as you go through this week, continue to fill in this spice chart and keep the 5 themes in mind. You still will want to go through Greece and Persia, but skim over the information that you don't already have written down, especially when it comes to Alexander the Great, as well as the new tensions between the Greeks and the Persians, and the existing tension as the Greek Empire fades to the Roman Empire. Thanks, guys.